my daughter there.
How time flies.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, the
That's
feeling
at
is
NMU.
yeah,
Yes.
NMU. I
Okay.
mean, the feeling is really unbelievable. I think all parents, I now know as a parent of Spokie there, now again, you guys are yet to experience. But I now know how it feels like to have your child do that and make you proud, you know, and that whole sort of touchy feely around it, you know. It touch a different emotional space in you as a person in terms of allowing that process. I mean, seeing all the mothers, it's just that Gemna, I'm one of those people. I'm sure a lot of people are. I'm sure for sure is like me. It's hard for us to show excitement.
Yes,
We don't know how to jump.
I'm excited.
This
is very exciting.
Yeah. I can't be jumping up and down, you know, and doing all of these things.
So even if no winning lotto, be like, yo.
At one of our graduation ceremonies, the father did push-ups.
Yes, I saw that one.
And not just ordinary jumping push-ups.
Yes, serious, like hardcore ones.
Yeah, and then when the daughter came down the ramp, lifted her up and ran.
Wow. You will never see me or actor do that. I mean, I can be sure of that. Tina, for us, it's just I was sitting there, I mean, clapping,
and then I'll say, "Well done."
And that's it, you know. And we went out to have dinner with her, and which was kind of nice. Ulive watsho uthi hayi kunzima kuma ndiphumanga mna kanti ndipheni imali nami ndiphume sifonela ukho apha, so make do with what you have. So it's such a wonderful thing, and I think the reason for the topic and it's just to the graduation season and to learn. There's quite a lot of things that happen around it, and that's what I wanted us to kind of delve into and see how the parents' experiences. Also, I mean, if you are a parent out there who has had this kind of experience, speak to us about that. Hector, how was it like? I mean, it was very dynamic, I must say. Also very interesting and colorful, not in the university space as it were, but in terms of the people that are graduating and their parents. No.
I think they've become quite, you could say, extravaganzas.
Yes.
The ceremonies, which is understandable. One way of looking at graduation from tertiary, it's almost like a coming of age kind of, and so its significance kind of gets to that height of a coming of age kind of thing, which is why I understand why in America they refer to commencement. Almost as if in so many ways you are commencing a very distinct new part of who you are, and in some ways classic adulthood starts there, you know. So there's a lot both for the graduate and for the parents that everybody can sense that there's a big switch that's turned here, you know. Which is fantastic, but also because navigating higher education is no mean feat, you know. The sense of achievement is very real. I once used the analogy of and the children of Israel getting into the promised land, and they see the giants, you know. You'd either be part of the other spies that says, this is a land that swallows up its inhabitants and we're like grasshoppers in our own eyes, or you have to be like Caleb and Joshua and kind of see it differently and be able to conquer. And this is very real, partly because why I'm saying this is because the sad part of it is that of the numbers that we see graduating, there's an even greater number that is just fallen by the side on the path there.
Yes.
The rate of attrition in higher education is unbelievably high. In fact, by the end of the first year, you'd be shocked at the number that actually would have dropped out of the ones that just start the first year. You know, I think statistically, the last I checked, almost half of students who start at varsity never finish. You know. And then even those that finish, the majority of them finish in standard number of years plus 2, plus 3, plus 4.
Not in record time.
You know, so it's not an easy navigation by any means. I'm just trying to say it's a great feat in so many ways, you know. And then, of course, the other sad part of it, which we'll probably discuss, is having come so far, we still have a big problem with graduate unemployment.
Yeah.
You know, so you've got that high moment, and then you say, what now?
Yeah.
And then maybe for 2-3 years, you're walking the streets, knocking on doors, dropping off CVs, and all that sort of thing. So, yeah.
It must quite be hard, because, I mean, for 3 years you had this purpose-driven type of living as a student, which you were hoping that the outcome at the end of the day is to put food in your family's table, you know, and everyone else that comes. I mean, the culmination, which is the graduation season, is that now we are on the edge of actually, you know, benefiting from what we've put into this child, you know, particularly those from, you know, poor families who are really seeing this child as a light at the end of the tunnel, if you like. So to actually come out of that and then still go back home, and you find yourself now with the same friends you left, that you thought that when you come back, you're gonna come back, you know,
you really thought you had progressed.
But you all need
and also you were not
away.
here. I mean, remember, there's quite a lot that happens in university that opens up your mind, and now all of a sudden you have to come back now to
revert
that sort of same setup that you were in. Your mind is not challenged now anymore, because at school there are many things that are challenging your mind. It could be the strikes and all of those things. It could be the
different
debates.
societies,
and also the debates, and
some
kids coming from different. So it must be quite daunting to really come back to.
It is. I think it must be a real soul-sapping experience to experience that graduate unemployment, which seems to be quite prevalent. But then the sad thing, funny enough, having said that, it's still the best bet you have to change and make it in life. Still the best bet, as it were, even with those diminished, you know, chances that are there. So South Africa is still doing well, but my worry is, because I straddle these two countries. I'm from Zimbabwe, and I mean, Zimbabwe has long been having these graduates that sell airtime on the street and or do cross-border trading, coming to Joburg and buying and selling stuff with master's degrees and other things and so on. And so, because this is almost like become my adoptive country, I always worry about whether or not you're going to see patterns similar to that, you know, heading that direction, which I hope not. But increasingly, you can see many of our graduates trying to get out of the country in South Africa, from South Africa to go elsewhere, you know. To New Zealand, or to go and teach English in Korea and Qatar and China and all that sort of thing, you know. Some of them that were not even on the education track, you know, they end up doing one of the teaching foreign English courses or something like that, or PGCE, and then eventually make their way to try and go and teach abroad. And then, of course, some stay on the academic track, but not so much for the love of higher degrees, but because they're thinking, maybe let me do this in the meantime, or they're thinking maybe to make my chances greater, you know, that sort of thing. So there is that side to it that comes post this whole jubilation. But to get back to the moment itself, it's very hard to put in words. I'm sure you as a parent whose child was graduating would understand what I'm saying, that it's very hard to put it in words, the kind of magic that's in this thing called graduation, you know, as it were. But one of the dynamics I also picked up is that female graduates now far outstrip male graduates. And I'm not talking like 45-45%. I'm talking like 65-70% to 30%.
But what causes that?
I'm not sure. Partly you start seeing the patterns with enrollments. Even enrollments at first year, the number of female students outstrips males generally.
I think that was also shared by Hector, by Angie. She did touch on it when she was doing metric results.
Oh, by the way, even in terms of achievement at metric,
Yeah.
the females outstrip the males also by far. So even it starts much earlier. You know, if you look at the bachelor passes and so on, and even in terms of achievement at undergraduate, you still see the females still, it's a good thing in that it shows that in terms of gender transformation along gender lines and being mindful of the education of the girl child, we've come a long way. But it seems like we are also now almost neglecting the boy child, which is not a good thing, because that if they're getting left behind, this society that we're building is going to have problems, you know, as it were. Even in terms of dropout rate at varsity, it looks like there's more dropouts among the males than there are amongst the females, at least at undergraduate level. I'm not sure whether it has to do with funding opportunities, because a lot of funding opportunities have got an equity element to them as well, you know, which might be gendered too. I'm not sure whether it's also the stereotypical argument of maturity for the undergraduate male versus the female. Maybe the females get more focused earlier in life than the younger men. Certainly, it has been my experience that young men in their 20s, and I'm mindful that I might be stereotyping here, they seem to feel like they've got time. You know, you really have time.
Time wasted never returns.
Which is a bit different, I think, for females, maybe even from the way they are socialized.
Yes.
You know, I think I was saying it off air that you will see that the pattern of more female graduates starts changing slightly when you get to postgrad. At honors, you still have slightly more females now. At masters, it seems like males are still more, and at PhD, distinctly more. Which then reflects even in terms of the staff profile, academic staff profile at universities. It's still predominantly male. So something then happens on this trajectory, you know, despite the higher achievement of generally of females at undergraduate level. Somehow, as you go up the ladder, the picture changes. Which I was saying, I think it's a social thing. Generally, students get to masters and PhD at like 24, 25. And what it means to be 24 or 25, particularly if you are thinking of childbearing, for men and women is a different. It's quite a different thing. You know? And if you're thinking of having a family and getting married and all that sort of thing. So it might well be that might be part of what starts playing out there. You know. In fact, quite often you see women who do PhDs do them later, like after they've had children, then they do them. Like then they find time later on to get back onto it.
Yes,
that sort of thing. So it's going to be interesting. Then the other element, which might be bear looking into, is what's happening in the so-called STEM fields: science, technology, engineering. Again, still it's still largely male. You know, I thought about it because I was talking about Jordan Peterson just now. Jordan Peterson was arguing that look. Fields of endeavor and gender and the choices that people make according to their genders are something you cannot manipulate through policy. You will almost always have more males choosing to go into engineering fields than females, even with capability.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the kind of interest they have. You might have more females, for example, choosing to go into health care related, nursing, medicine, and so on, but not so much automotive engineering, etc., etc. It's going to be interesting that, of course, we should encourage more people, the sort of diversity into the different fields. But we might, the only reason why I'm raising this point is that we might not always get the parity that we want through some sort of social engineering project, as it were. So yeah, this is the picture as it is, and the season is still upon us. I think some universities are yet to have their
WUSU is having theirs this week.
this week.
Yeah.
And that's a big one, because it's a very large, widespread university. It's a very big one.
And I think for me, one of the things I noticed, I mean, for instance, NMU, they had 5,000 students graduated. I mean, that's quite a big number. That's just one university. I don't know how many in your own university.
We're close to 3,000.
3,000.
That was a smaller university.
And
it still took a whole week, 5 days.
Wow. Yeah. So I mean, that's just now, that's 8,000. Imagine now if you have that, just two universities, and suppose maybe only 1% of those get employment. I mean, that's a big problem.
Or even into graduate programming, because that also is like a fight of first come first serve type of situation.
I mean, that's really quite a big problem, and part of what, I mean, I remember when we were talking.
And then, I mean, there's even larger investors, UKZ, and probably graduate something like 15, 16,000.
What?
That's a lot.
Yes, man.
And it's still not the biggest.
What's the biggest?
Well, if we count UNISA, it's UNISA.
Okay.
Because UNISA has got like a third of all
students
are from UNISA. That 1/3 UNISA.
Yes.
So it kind of distorts the picture.
Of course,
So you find
is it because of the distant learning mostly?
You know,
okay.
They're from all over the world, and all different countries and all that sort of thing. But the success rate is not very good. Distance learning is not easy, you know. So you find that almost all the statistics you get will say including UNISA, excluding UNISA, so that you see the picture differently.
Yes,
because UNISA is just such a big thing there. But I mean, but University of Limpopo has got even more students than UKZN, if I'm not mistaken, for example.
Wow.
You know?
Okay.
And maybe even UCT actually. So it's quite a lot of graduates that have been turned out every year, every season. You know,
it's an interesting thing.
No, I was gonna say, like, how does the institution now prepare the graduates, the ones that are going to be graduating, in terms of is there some counseling where they get told that yes, you cannot be graduating, however these are the dynamics that you'll be facing beyond, you know, your graduation?
In fact, virtually all universities have got some sort of counseling, career guidance unit of some sort, you know, and a lot of them have got links with different. So, for example, you'd find that a particular faculty, let's say Faculty of Law, has got this enduring relationship with these law firms to make sure that at least they are top graduates, which is, by the way, another element that's important to emphasize now, because degrees have become so commonplace. The quality of degree is really important. And therefore, part of the counseling you have to do to students is that do not just endeavor to get a degree. You must make sure that you. Then the second element is, what else do you do during your days as a student? Because many students who get opportunities, they get opportunities through extracurricular activities that they do that are ancillary to their degree, you know, because they are part of Toastmasters, or they were part of a student exchange program that took them somewhere, you know, or they were part of a moot or a debate that took them to the Philippines, where they then met these other people and so on.
So collaborations.
And that's why they attended a summer school on leadership and that sort of thing, you know, while they were doing this, etc. actually quite often gives such students an edge over other students who are holding the same degree qualification.
Yeah, but
Okay.
without the involvement in the other aspects of the
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah. And in fact, quite often that's how they find themselves, because most students just do a degree because that's the one they were able to get into, and then start orientating themselves while they're in the process, towards a more definite end. Yeah.
And I think, I mean, that aspect is also very important. The idea that you have to, and I've encouraged my kids so much on this, that it's not enough to be in the university or in any school for that matter, because I know I was one of those students who was just for then I'm coming here to do this and that's it. And so I had to sort of reorientate them and say, look, guys, don't be like me. When you go to university, find something to do there.
Yes.
If there's a magazine, be part of that. If there's any sort of because there, I mean, remember you build relationships, networks. If there's a program where someone else is being invited to come and speak in that, you don't know what comes out of that particular sort of environment. So it's very important for them to actually not only do what they've come to do, but to also try and immerse themselves
that
in
kind
the
of add value to what they do. If nothing else, it might just broaden your skills beyond the ones that your degree affords you. I was having a conversation with this other girl who's who ended up being was it a store manager or something like that? But actually, your degree was in the sciences, But from there, she went to do a learnership somewhere, and then got interested in this thing and sales and marketing and all of that, and kind of diverted completely. But not that what she learned there was lost, because the problem solving skills, the mathematical ability, and all of those sort of things are still applicable.
Of course,
you can translate them into this. So which brings me to the other point I want to make, that the world is so versatile that you need to equip students to understand that they should not look out only for traditional routes that are followed from their careers, as it were. I mean, there are cadetships that are given by the Reserve Bank, by the South African National Defence Force, for all sorts of different things, So there are many different pathways to career opportunities that are there now. In addition to not even going to university, but taking a different pathway, as it were. It's a pity that maybe we're not doing enough as a country to provide apprenticeships and such similar opportunities, considering that if we look at, I've mentioned it before, if you look at the scarce skills for South Africa and the critical skills, many of them fall into the trades and vocations. You need specialist welders and fitters and tanners and plumbers and environmental technologists and all sorts of different people who don't necessarily need to go the traditional academic degree route, to get to where they want to get to. So there's that too,
Yeah. So of course, the part of what this means, I did read a certain also sort of stats around, and obviously, I mean, this will probably flow from the issue of graduates, many of them being women, and that many sort of home buyers now in South Africa are also women. They tend to be the ones who actually buy homes or houses more than men. So that also then creates a different sort of dynamic in the in our culture and in how we've come to know things.
Yeah, that a man is always supposed to be a provider, and
so now you can't provide the primary thing,
the
roof over the head.
When you come into this marriage, you already find that and we're talking about this with Spokie, that I wonder how much of that then is at play, and how then it affects also the prenups,
Yes.
that you might
Yeah.
find that
There's
in
more
our
prenups
days,
now.
the conventional way of
In
getting
community.
married, which was in community, is probably becoming less and less
Yes.
In fact, there's a very shrill voice that ubhadlile na if usathatha in communal property in this day and age. Ongathi into engekhoyo le bana who in his right mind gets married in communal
Yeah.
property. There's such a voice that's growing. In fact, I mean, well, it's interesting that you raised this point. I think talking about the male child getting left behind, I think on most important metrics now, if you look at it, the trend is actually going in that direction.
Yeah.
Because you see, the traditional argument of male dominance was a little bit skewed, because what happens in reality is that you've got a very small percentage of males that are dominant over everybody, both male and female, that are at the apex.
Yes.
And then those are taken to represent the entirety of males.
Yes.
I get you.
And then you've got this dominant narrative about male dominance of everything.
Yes.
I mean, like, again, an argument that was made on all the negative side. You've got more males in jail. You've got more males dying. You've got more males in hospital. You got all of that. You've got more of them there. So even in terms of coping,
with the new dynamic,
the males are not doing very well. Or at least don't seem to be doing very well, as a total.
But now, just to step it up a bit, does it now means that the female must, to a certain level, when looking for a partner now, kind of lower the standard of expectation of a man? Because now that is going to come into play. Let's say I've got multiple properties, I've got investment, I'm single, I don't have a child, I'm in this age now. And like now, am I going to say, okay, I can settle with just like a normal guy? Or do I now look beyond that? Do I get someone that is still starting to put their foot maybe into business or into corporate, like in terms of now the...
Okay, I will speculate. Firstly, I think generally women choose upwards rather than downwards.
Of course.
But that upwards, I hear. That upwards could be in any of the dynamics.
Oh yes. In fact, in many instances, it's potential, which is something that I think they seem to be particularly good at. I've seen the case.
Potential.
I think this guy's getting some. He will. He can.
Yeah.
Okanye ndingayilungisa ibe ile nto.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, I do prescribe to the idea of the female partner or wife in being a helper, and not helper in the sense of like the person on the sentry, but I mean a helper as in a person who can assist you to reach potential, or to focus better, or to
to drive you towards,
to push you, that kind of thing. I think so. I think maybe because I went to a boys' school and I just saw what it was like to be boys only. That if it was going to be perpetually like this for life,
and it's going to be very competitive.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was just jungle. But yeah, I think it's making it a lot more difficult for women to make choices of partners, which is why it is in the best interests of both males and females that both genders do well. I think we might be too overly obsessed with this bifurcation of males and females as if they are different species, as if we're not all in this together, you know. There's a place for it, but perhaps we're overdoing it. I mean, to oversimplify, when we try to address gender disparity and have affirmative policies towards females, are we also thinking that the boy child who might be excluded has got a single female mother who has sacrificed everything to try and get this boy there? You know? The tools are too blunt that say just slice them females, they're males. It's just too blunt, you know. There are so many intersections, as it were, which is why I think something has to be done to whatever the right word is, to awaken the male to say, come on, you need to also take your place. There's a place for you here. You can achieve, you can do this, you can, you know, that sort of thing. I know I'm oversimplifying, but
I think I mean the point you're making there, it's not a point that is often made to, you know, when people are attacking these issues of disparities between men and female, you know, the kind of thought process that says Lomdu could be coming from a different, you know, the same, so you kind of making the mother of this boy to actually now be affected twice. She was affected because of the and then again now her child that she's worked so hard for to actually find a place, and then they find the environment now is actually hostile to them because he's male. So it's quite an interesting sort of I think point to arrive at, and maybe to be looked into in all of these things, which I think ultimately speaks also to the issues of rationale. You know, sometimes policies they are not rational. Sometimes they are made out of rational thinking, but their effects along the way and who they attack or they actually, you know, impact is not really sort of thought about in terms of the blunt instrument we are talking about.
Exactly.
Because we want to correct this, and that's how we think going forward. Meanwhile, along the way, someone else is being hurt in our trying to correct whatever it is that we are trying to correct.
The very person you're trying to protect.
But now could be affected on a different sort of level.
Exactly.
You know,
because of the it's more nuanced than
And I think it's such an important debate because
including what Spokie raised. At the end of the day, the females that are doing well would like to have a choice of competent, confident, focused partners. Assuming they are heterosexual, you know, and it's an important consideration to make.
And also, I mean, you have to think also in the fact that even when it comes to that, part of then the aspect of our societies is that as much as you want this guy who is competitive and, you know, competent, and this guy who has these things, that their background must not be lost into what you want. So in other words, as a female, you don't know, most, I mean, we are, in fact, my belief is that we are moving into a new sort of different sort of environment and world. By the time we get into 2030, on the other side, you must look at all of these kids from 2000, you know, the Lama 2K.
Yes.
The Lama 2K Ngabo, who will be getting into marriages and into all of these things. And their mindset is completely different. That mindset will really turn things, I don't know whether for the worse or for the better, I don't know, but as we go into 2030, there's a different kind of dynamic that's coming that does not have this sentiment. Some of them, they're coming from families like maybe mine who are going to say, Fodin, when you work, you don't have to be coming back who's a fixer and all of that, because that's what we are trying to do.
Yeah.
Whereas when Tina, we were getting married and no, you had what is called now black tax.
Black tax,
You know?
yeah.
You have to go back home and try and fix this. And so all these graduates now who are coming through and who are graduating, their environment may be different, some of them. You know, they don't have the burden of black tax. Some of them, yes, still have, you know. And so that's going to affect then their marriages and how they socialize in the future around those aspects.
And the other thing that's playing out is that a lot of us have made this, I don't know what to call it, a transition where things that were luxuries when we were growing up have now become basic or even necessities, you know. And then we've got all these children that are being born into this with that expectation, you know. So part of the challenge of recent graduates is to understand that I am now ready to start. I haven't arrived. I'm ready to start. Even those that get opportunities, because sometimes they struggle with that. You know, I'll give you an example, which is where your question about how much counseling, how much guidance is given.
Yes.
I remember engaging a law graduate who had said she had quit. She had found articles, which are very hard to get these days, you know, with a law firm. And then she said she was quitting. He was quitting because he's nothing but a glorified messenger there. You know, he gets there and then he's told, go and deliver this there, go and deliver this there, and this, that, and what we'll do an LLB for me to become a messenger and all of that. So I kind of said to him, look, we gave you legal education. These guys are giving you legal training. What is happening there now is that you now know that these kinds of papers are served at the register of companies. You now know that when there's a service of process to the other party, this is how it is done, and these are the kind of documents that are served. This is, you know, that kind of thing, including learning that you probably at least initially learn a lot from the legal secretaries who don't have an LLB about how work is done in a law firm, than your principal who's probably too busy with the other higher cases. You know, that kind of thing. And some of them are just not ready for that, partly because of how they've been oriented to think of themselves and what a degree means. You know? So I'm just trying to balance the fact that I said it's a very big achievement, but you must also know that what it does is that it just prepares you to be able to start, to enter, to get to the threshold, and then you've got a whole new kind of learning to do to be able to succeed in this area, because that's the other element that is there of graduates who are doing so well in university but do not make a success of their careers even when they get them.
Yeah, that's true. Remember, I'm not sure when I had this, but apparently if it's still happening, in fact, that if you work at McDonald's, you have to start there by the grill. You must mop, you must grill, you must
know the
whole value chain. Yes. So maybe like what you're saying, how you cancelled that gentleman, that young man. It's what is basically happening. You must know from grassroots.
We couldn't have taught you that.
Of course.
You can only learn it in a law firm that this is how this happens. So this is it, you know. In fact, in some extreme cases, and somebody argued strenuously and said this is exploitation, but sometimes the partner asks you to go and buy lunch for him or something like that. Say, but I'm a graduate. Why am I doing this? Look, one argument was, we're in this together. The partner bills a lot more than you do. If you free up time for him to bill in by going to get this thing for him, not that they should do it all the time. You might actually be finding ways. I know it's a bit of an extreme example, but that kind of orientation, when okay, why are we doing this? Why are we working together here? Is he also giving me time to grow? You know, besides sending me on errands and that sort of thing.
And that's how maybe you can start having a relationship with the partner.
So there's a lot that goes on in the workspace that you
That needs
ask
you.
yourselves.
I think
Mm.
it may also need you to take off that sort of attitude of being a
Yes.
graduate
Yeah.
and being, like you're saying, being a starter.
You're ready to learn.
You are
Yeah.
learner now
Because
again.
I mean, the it's such an important thing for graduates or anyone for that matter to understand that there must be a place to start, and that place may not always necessarily be where you want or you thought
Yes.
that with your degree you're going to start.
Then, by the way, there's the other side of it, which
Mm.
was part of my experience. When I finished my LLB, I joined the division that did legislative drafting. So I get there, I meet the director of the division, I'm introduced to everybody. He tells me, if you've got any questions, this is a chief law officer, you can ask him. And so if you can't find me, and this is the library, this is and all of that. Then he gives me a file and says, here's this file that I've been working on. Look through it. I need a report on it this Friday, because I'm going to present something at the cabinet committee meeting on this particular thing. Study it and do it for me. It was a test because he actually did the work separately, but he gave the thing to me. And then he came in on Friday morning of the day he was going to have a cabinet meeting, struggling on his jacket, and says, do you have that report? I'll read it in the car on my way there, and I'll present it. But what he was trying to teach me is that you should be ready to take responsibility. You should ask when you don't know, and all that sort of thing. And you don't learn all of that. And I'm raising this point particularly because one of the issues that has been raised as a challenge that graduates have is this quality called graduateness, which is not curriculum content, but attributes that a graduate is supposed to have that make them ready and suitable to take the next step with success, So by giving me that file, he wanted to see that would I use what I have? If I don't know, would I ask? Would I go to the library and do the research that was necessary, and so on, And fortunately, I did well, And then in addition, one of the things, between my LLB and my master's, I got another scholarship. And this scholarship, I got it this way. We were drafting the environmental law legislation for Zimbabwe, and then I was sent to a workshop on that. So I was there, and it was here. I remember it was here in South Africa in Randburg. So we traveled, we flew from all over the subcontinent, in fact, from East Africa and West Africa, and everywhere we came here. And there was this big thing, and people would disappear and go shopping, go to Sandton and all this kind of thing. And I was always a boring kind of person, so I was always around doing my thing.
You were there to do your thing.
What I didn't know was that the regional director of the world, what's this now? Environment program, which is one of the arms of the United Nations, was there, and he was observing. He noticed. Then he kind of said to me, "Do you know that we got this scholarship opportunity? We're trying to build capacity in SADC and environmental law, and so is this the kind of thing you'd be interested in?"
Imagine if you had gone to Sandton to shop.
Is this the kind of thing you'd be interested in? Because I see you. So my point is, again, graduates, when they emerge, better keep their heads, in the situations and opportunities that they get, because quite often it's not out of your brilliance that you get something. It's because somebody decided to give you a break.
Yes.
Because they noticed or they picked up something, Just another example again. Graduates, while they're at home not finding work, a colleague of mine who had been a professor was at another institution now. He calls me and he says, "No, there's this opportunity that is there. I remember there were these two guys in my class, man. Those guys were always there." In other words, they didn't bunk class. Do you know what they're doing? Where are they?
Yes, you see now.
So I looked them up. And that's how they got an opportunity.
Wow.
So I just thought I would put all that into the basket of this thing called a graduate, and all the kind of attributes they're supposed to have, which shows the world that they are ready for the next level and be able to have got the potential to succeed in it, beyond just the book knowledge that they come with.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's not enough, guys, to just be a
Yes.
graduate. There are attributes that come with that, and those things had to be part of you, and the attitude also. I
Yeah,
think
you have
is-
to have an open mind. You
yeah.
have to. Otherwise, you're gonna fall short because you can't say, I don't want to do this."
Yeah.
Because e-learning opportunities are there.
Yeah. Well, Hector, thanks for this. I think you know, when I think about everything that is in terms of the current environment and sort of course, I mean, our country lacking very much in terms of having an economy that is active and keeps up to speed with the current wave of graduates. That also is something that people have to navigate now differently. You know,
It's what it does, how it prepares. Just one last analogy. A friend of mine was a karateka, said this. He says when you get a black belt, which is quite a senior grade in karate, he says you are now ready to learn. All that you were doing in all these other belts was to almost unlearn. You now know how to walk properly as a karateka. You know how to breathe. You know how to stand. You know how to, and now you are ready to learn. And almost when graduates, that's where they are. They now have a certain way of thinking, a certain way of looking at the world, a way of approaching problems, critical analysis, and all that sort of thing. And it's those tools that they're now bringing to this space that they are in, which are likely to help them to succeed.
Wow. Guys, the time is 5:50.
Yes.
Thanks, Hector, for this. I think we must close it.
Yeah, we can wrap up.
And let's just do music and sizong. And umfundisi ukhona namhlanje. Born to Lead is next. We said last week Born to Lead was next, but
Yes. He was leading elsewhere.
So yeah. Valelisa
Yes.
Hector, Mandala Pogo.
Yeah, well, it's been quite a while since I was here. I was last year, so it's been such a pleasure to be back and to just share insights with listeners. It's been such a pleasure, and have a beautiful week, everybody.
Thank you very much to our listeners. And that is all, folks, for this edition of Stay Real with Lester and Spokie. Join us again next week, same place, same time, 3 to 6. And have a blessed week ahead and a good evening. Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much. Have a beautiful week and evening, and stay beautiful, stay lovely, stay strong. Sanbona next week. Next week, we did say we're going to be having Pastor Kondo here, the former CEO. He's not coming here as the pastor. We're going to be discussing the CEO side of him, when
the corporate man in him,
of the IDZ and what that experience was like and so forth. So next week, from 5 to 6, we'll be having him here, and we'll be discussing that. So see you guys next week. Let's just see what. Yeah, we're gonna.